Our next speaker captured national attention in a special election in early 2018. When President Trump went to Pennsylvania twice to campaign for him. Our own May Meng, co-chair of this conference, flew from Boston to Pittsburgh to knock on doors for him. Please welcome Dr. Rick Saccone, State Representative of Pennsylvania.
Hello, fellow patriots! I want to thank the Chinese American Alliance for your endorsement and for your help. Many of you that are in this room came to Pittsburgh and supported me. It was a wild and crazy race, as you remember, and I really thank you for your support. So, I want to get straight to my message because I think it's important, because I know as you read the newspaper, you can see our country is in peril today because our traditional values, our conservative values, are eroding, the values that you represent. You see a rise in popularity of socialism in our country. In my state, we've had several Democratic socialists already elected to the state assembly, and many to our county councils and our local government. It's a rising trend across the country. So I want to compare our society today with the backdrop of North Korea. I lived in North and South Korea for a total of 14 years, spanning 4 decades, beginning in the late 70s, 80s, 90s, and into this century. One of those years I spent in North Korea as in diplomatic capacity to the nuclear power plant project. You may remember on the East Coast near Hamhung, north of Hamhung, in a small city called Sinpo. You might remember the U.S. offered to build North Korea 2 1,000-megawatt light water nuclear reactors to generate electricity in exchange for them shutting down their military-grade, weapons-grade plutonium projects. I was the only American living in North Korea for a year. And I was the first American most of those people had ever seen, let alone met. I was there when 9/11 happened. That's a whole other story we can talk about another time. It's a very interesting story, the time to be in North Korea. Most of my time was spent in South Korea. I was stationed there while I was in the United States Air Force working in counterintelligence, and mostly in Seoul. I spent my time chasing spies and North Korean commandos who were trying to infiltrate the South and attack our bases. I was on the counter-terrorist team for the 1988 Olympics in Seoul. We were able to thwart a number of terrorist plots and disrupt the game that were intended to disrupt the Olympic Games then. Those things never made it into the news, but I had an exciting and rewarding career there. After I retired, I stayed on in South Korea to work in business and a variety of other jobs, including an on-air news personality on English language television. So I've traveled the peninsula, South Korea, from top to bottom, and much of North Korea too. Along the way, I authored 9 books, 7 of them on Korean, including 2 travel guides on the peninsula. I didn't mean to talk about me so much. I wanted to compare North Korea, and I thought you might be interested in what's going on in North Korea, and compare it to this rise that we have today in the idea of socialism in our own country. Although South Korea has been hailed as the miracle on the Han River because of its rapid economic development, North Korea remains trapped in a totalitarian society. Under Kim Il-sung and his son Kim Jong-il, and now the grandson Kim Jong-un, the people live under a terrible tyranny. As I mentioned, I was there from December of 2000 to December of 2001. And as a diplomat, I didn't suffer under all the conditions the average citizen did, but I had a chance to see them firsthand. So, however, imagine living in a land where the government maintains total control over your life. No locks are allowed on any doors. The government can enter your home at any time. They keep an inventory of everything you own. And the government can inspect that at any time. They can enter your house and compare with the inventory that they have and the things you own. And if you were to have acquired something that was on that inventory, you could be sent off to a re-education camp immediately, or fined in prison. The government tells you where to live, what your occupation will be. It determines the ration of the food you receive. Think what it would be like to have to obtain a visa to travel from here to Lexington, because the government must approve all domestic travel. You have a domestic passport, and any internal movement around the country, you have to get a visa. You want to go see your brother in Lexington? Why? Weren't you there last month? I was. Visa denied. Sorry, you can't go. Let's think of living in a country like that. Imagine life where you're not free to speak against the government or the meager means it provides in any way. Imagine living in fear of your government. Imagine bowing to statues of the great leader as if he were God. Imagine that the word love is reserved only for the great leader. You can't use it among yourselves, between yourselves. That word is reserved to be expressed for the great leader. While the political and social climate is horrific, the people endure, as Koreans somehow always do. They even maintain a kind of bright spirit in the midst of their hardship, I noticed while I was there. I remember that the people treated me well, even after years of being taught to hate Americans. They still treated me well. The average person is still proud of his country and wants others to recognize it. They'd always say to me when I was able to get out of the countryside, they'd say, how do you like my country? Have you been to Pyongyang? Isn't it beautiful? They're still proud of their country. Because they're undeveloped, even though their country is beautiful, some of the mountains and beaches there are some of the unspoiled areas of their country are beautiful. People like to go visit there. They pay a lot of money to go visit there. They attract a lot of tourists. A lot of tourists from China and other Asian countries go there. It's a beautiful country. It's unspoiled and undeveloped. But the economic situation is desperate. Food is rationed, and 2 generations of citizens have experienced stunted growth from the lack of nutrition. All the while, the elites have benefited and live a decent life in relative comfort. So don't think everybody in North Korea is poor. The elites, and when I say elites, we're talking about a class of several 100,000 people. They live very well. When I was in the airport in Pyongyang, I saw people traveling to China from North Korea with mink coats and fancy clothes and Gucci purses and shoes and all those types of things. The elites live well. They live a life like you do, or even better in many cases. But the average person doesn't. Electricity is scarce. In some ways, they exist in a land functioning like the United States did in the late 1800s. Most daily functions are performed by hand, the old-fashioned ways. We were on a construction project building those nuclear power plants, and the North Koreans, they didn't have anything. They didn't have a wheelbarrow. They would just put boards together, and 2 people on each end to carry dirt. And that's how they moved dirt around, like you would, 200 years ago. But the people struggle in ignorance, not really knowing what goes on in the rest of the world. The leadership suppresses individual liberty and thought through a tightly controlled press. Think of our country. Think how we're going the path we're headed on. While pursuing a military agenda of aggression toward the South in order to win international aid to bolster their failing economy. So there you have it. A nation of people divided by 2 opposing political philosophies. The South prospering under democracy and the North suffering under communism. And yet we have much in common with those people in North Korea. The average person suffering under this tyranny. We have much in common with them. I'll give you a couple of examples. They believe in hard work, just like you do. They respect honest labor, all types of honest labor, because they work hard every day. They're forced to. They believe in self-reliance. We're a self-reliant country where we were. Their philosophy, the Juche philosophy, believes in self-reliance. Individualism, in that sense. Freedom, patriotism. They love their country, regardless of what they're suffering under. Love of their family. They love their family just like you do, even though they're under this terrible system. Respect for marriage. They honor marriage. And the divorce rate is very low. They brag about that all the time. Great respect for marriage. In service to the country. While I was there, I learned that I tried to read this so I could talk with them more, because that's all they talked about is the great leader. I read Kim Il-sung's books and so forth, and I try to use these quotes kind of against them when I was there, or at least to try to find some common ground with them. I remember talking to them one time. I said, look, we believe a lot of the same things. I said, Kim Il-sung said that the noblest thing a man can do is service to his country. And I told our President Kennedy, said, had the same type of quote. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. You see, we have lots of things in common, and they would shake their heads. And I said, the great leader, Kim Il-sung, he quoted, I read his book, and it said in there that the meaning of life is liberty. I said, Americans are champions of liberty. And they go, tell me more. They like to hear things where we had in common. I would try to find as many of those things as I could. I said, America was once a colony like Korea was. We broke away from it. And, yeah, that's what it is. And, you know, they could identify with that. I said, under the Juche philosophy, you know, if you don't work, you don't eat. That's an old Puritan ethic, by the way. We were founded on that principle. That those who do not work do not eat. You see, we have a lot in common. And they would like to hear that because, you know, they've been taught that we're mortal enemies. So I want to talk a little bit. You know, we live in a country like no place on earth. We should be proud of our heritage and our values. Unfortunately, as I said in the beginning, our country is in peril because of our moral decline. And I wanted to share that with you because I believe we must restore America and American values. Those conservative values, those values that you treasure and cherish too. We all do. And we need to restore those. But what are those values? I just want to talk a little bit about them. First, self-reliance over dependency. Our country was built as a self-reliant people who refused charity unless they needed it. Today we've increasingly become dependent on government handouts. I see this as an elected official also. People still looking for free money doled out to buy votes. Old President Kennedy's quote, ask not what you can do for your country, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, has been reversed. That's where our country's headed. We've been lulled to sleep by the lullaby of socialism's promise to take care of us. Several generations have known only welfare handouts from the rest of us. People have this notion that their needs somehow constitute a claim on the wealth of others. We've forgotten that old adage that compassion is not giving someone something, but freeing someone from needing it. We would do well to remember Jefferson's admonition that democracy will cease to exist when you take away from those who are willing to work and give to those who would not. Second is merit over entitlement. We were a country built on the pride of our individual achievements. We've become a society that punishes achievement and rewards unproductive, even destructive behavior. The more you fail, the better chance you have of receiving government assistance. Bailouts to big business is just one example. As Cal Thomas once astutely observed, this is supposed to be a country of opportunity for its citizens. It has become a government that dispenses goodies to the group that can produce the most votes. That's a danger, my friends. Number three, personal responsibility over victimization. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. That's what you hear in the news all the time. Someone else is always to blame. We need to step up and take responsibility for failure. We have an epidemic of cheating in America. I teach college also. I have for 19 years. And youth have confessed to me many times, why wouldn't I cheat? If I have to get ahead, why wouldn't I cheat? That's what our youth is learning. It's okay to cheat. To win, you'll do anything. Maybe you heard this notion has reached all the way to our United States Air Force intercontinental ballistic missile launch officers, who a few years ago were exposed to cheating on their launch officer proficiency exams. Can you imagine the danger that places our entire country in? If our ICBM force was cheating on how to launch and when to launch those missiles, they didn't really know what they were supposed to do. They've created a culture of false self-esteem, trying to insulate our children from failure. Everyone gets a trophy in this society. We used to build self-esteem through hard work and personal achievement. We've forgotten the old adage that he who praises everybody praises nobody. We failed to teach them the necessary life lesson of making stepping stones out of stumbling blocks. As Thomas Sowell reminded us, our educational system is actively undermining any sense of loyalty to the traditions and values of American society. We've got to change our school system, folks. We've got to get a handle on it. Number four. Number four is virtue over vice. Virtue just means moral excellence. We sure need a lot more of that in our country today. Our culture celebrates popular music that tears down women. Our kids have produced the knockout game, attacking senior citizens. In the library, we're not allowed to filter pornography, but anything about God is off limits. 25% of all search engine requests are for pornography. Do you believe that? 80% of 8 to 16-year-olds have viewed porn online, most while doing their homework. Our country has joined the plague of sex trafficking that has engulfed the world. Even in my state of Pennsylvania, lots of sex trafficking, even through the rural areas. Unbelievable. Today, government lies without Remember, a partial truth, a partial lie is more dangerous than an outright lie. Because what is truthful in it makes the rest of it seductive. A half-truth to this generation is truth. But to our generation, it's a lie because it's meant to deceive. That's why you tell an half-truth. You're trying to deceive people. The corrupt media helps validate Mark Twain saying that if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read the newspaper, you're misinformed. What's worse is that people see lies as okay. They see it as normal in our society today. We suffer from a culture where the number of kids born out of wedlock without a father has skyrocketed. In our permissive society, they grow up undisciplined and self-centered. And I know in this community that's very important to you, how we raise our children. It's important to all of that's a core American value. Remember when you were in school, the principal was the god of discipline. Now we have police officers patrolling the halls to help stem violence and maintain order. We never had that before. Our schools in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, last year had 16 rapes, 62 sexual assaults, 200 indecent assaults. More than 3 times the number just 10 years ago. In our schools. In our schools. Our country is sick, and it's in denial of the sickness, folks. Our leaders are weak and corrupted. As I've said before, we need men and women with the values of our forefathers who are unafraid to stand up for what's right. We need leaders who value not material gain, but virtue. As I said, that means moral excellence. Our founder in Pennsylvania, he had a good saying. William Penn, he reminded us that a nation is not great by virtue of its wealth, but by the wealth of its virtue. That's what we need to emphasize, is virtue, not money, not wealth. Today we have leaders who see virtue in corruption, and corruption in virtue. You see how they switch it? How the world is upside down? They've abandoned what was right and true, and what was once immoral and shameful has become progressive and praiseworthy. Watch for those keywords. Number 5, honesty over corruption, another core value. Corruption at the state level is shocking. I don't know what it is here in Massachusetts, but in Pennsylvania, in the 8 years that I've been in the legislature, we've had 2 former speakers of the House sharing the same jail cell. We lost our treasurer, we lost our attorney general, we've lost 3 Supreme Court justices, and we've lost 14 state representatives and 3 state senators to corruption. Just in the time. That's just the ones that have been caught. It's so bad in Pennsylvania that we jokingly say, when one member asks another for his cell number, it takes on a whole new meaning. You can see the problem we have with government today. It's that we've elected the wrong kind of people. That's why it's so important what you do. Supporting good people with conservative values that will stay the course. It's a problem for the country as a whole, all the way to the White House. We have to help. And the last one I want to talk about is God over secularism. Our faith is under attack today. Who would have guessed that an Air Force cadet would be chastised for writing a scripture on a whiteboard in his room? Who would have guessed that a CEO of Mozilla, Brendan Ike, would be forced to step down because of a private donation to support traditional marriage? Who would have guessed that a 3rd grade student would be prevented from reading her Bible during reading time at school? Who would have guessed that architects would try to remove our national motto, "In God We Trust," from the Capitol Visitor Center? And that's since been restored, but that was their purpose, to tear God out of our government. And yet, around the world, I'm talking about our national motto, around the world, in places like Iraq and North Korea, they cherish our motto. And I want to share these 2 stories with you. Our motto, "In God We Trust," is so important. We've lost the importance of that in our country. But in other countries, they still look to us as a beacon as a godly nation. We had I served a year in Iraq, interrogating terrorists and Al-Qaeda, and we had a pastor visiting from Iraq. And this pastor had a wonderful story. He had a congregation in Baghdad, 1,000 parishioners every Sunday. Terrorists came to his church, told him to stop preaching the Word of God. He refused. Put guns to his head. They started killing pastors all around him in Baghdad. He still refused to stop preaching the Word of God. I heard he was coming to America to visit. I asked him to come to our state assembly. We open our state assembly every session with a prayer. We have since 1774. Prayer, he did. The first thing he did, he got up and he thanked the people of America. He said, "You know, in Iraq we have problems with terrorists running around. but we still are trying. We're still trying to get a hold of this. And we look to America as that beacon of light, that only godly country left, a country that honors God. And we know that because we see on your money, in God we trust. Thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people look to America as that beacon. He said, but we've heard recently that you're turning your back on God and your country. Don't do that, he said. How would places like us, we would have no place to look up to if you turned your back on God in America. Please don't do that. And then he went on to give a wonderful prayer. And then I want to share the story from North Korea because I think it's important that we know that people around the world look to us and there's hope out there that people are turning to God. When I was in North Korea, as I told you, I'd been there about 6 months. And around our site, there were a few North Korean restaurants and facilities that we could use. We had 1,200 workers there, mostly from South Korea, but we had some others there. As I said, I was the only American. But we had some facilities. One of them was a restaurant. I was at this restaurant one night eating my dinner, and I was the last customer. And there was only me, there was the waitress at the end of the counter, North Korean waitress, and 2 cooks in the kitchen. Couldn't see the cooks, but we could hear them talking. And this young lady, this cashier, she had never spoken to me before. And they were cold to me when I first got there. It took me a while to develop relationships with them. And I noticed that she was, as I was eating, she was at the cash register, and she had a dollar bill. We had to pay for everything in American dollars in North Korea. North Korea is indeed hard currency. And she was holding this dollar bill, and she was rubbing it with her thumbs. I didn't pay much attention to it. I was just eating. I didn't want to cause any international incidents of trouble. I tried to keep a low profile. And she started moving her way down toward me. And I kept watching her, and she kept looking around to see if anybody was watching. She got all the way up to me, she bent over, and I saw that she was rubbing that dollar bill with her thumbs. In God we trust. And she leaned over to me and she said, do you believe in this God? And I tell you, with that question, she crossed the threshold. Where not only her parents, her siblings, all her relatives, she would have lost that job, they would have all been taken out to a re-education camp just for asking me that question. But she felt compelled to ask me that question. And I said, yes, I do. And she said, he died. And I said, oh, he did. But he rose again. And he loves you as much as he loves me. And all you have to do is reach out and call to him, and he will come to you. And that young girl looked down at that dollar bill, looked up at me, looked down again, looked up at me. And the first time I saw her smile. She didn't say another word. She went back to the cash register. But I tell you, on a dark night in North Korea, deepest, darkest place on earth, she felt compelled to reach out and ask me about God. That motto is important. It inspires people around the world. It can inspire people back here in our own country once again. Are you with me on that? I went into this a number of times. I remember righteousness exalts a nation, Proverbs 14:34. We have to be as passionate about restoring those values, our constitutional principles, and the Constitution, as the other side is, the progressives are about destroying them. Let us be the generation that stands up for our heritage. You have to decide, all of you, as Americans, whether you will allow others to determine the future of this country or whether you're going to determine it. Stay involved with our struggle, recruit others to our cause. There is no fight which we cannot prevail. God bless you all. Thank you for inviting me.